go. All right, so we are going to go ahead and go into page 13, leaving home, why Garrett Morgan had to leave home. We are going to look over those literal and inferential questions, and we're going to use a yellow highlighter for literal and a pink highlighter for inferential. I'm going to read just a little bit of information from page 13 on to the top of page 14. And then we're going to figure out what are some literal questions or are inferential. So here we go. Garrett Morgan was born in Paris, Kentucky in 1877, 12 years after the Civil War ended. Both his parents had been born into slavery. Morgan grew up during a time of great change in America. Slavery was abolished in the United States in 1865. Newly emancipated men and women and children were hopeful for the future. But in decades that followed, racism and discrimination remained brutal facts of life. Many southern states passed laws that denied Black people the right to vote or hold certain jobs. Black people were forced to use separate and inferior public, but then facilities, including hospitals, libraries, and schools. These shameful laws and policies trapped many Black people in poverty, including Morgan's family. One question that you can ask for literal is basically the way we would start asking that is when did discrimination started happening in the United States? A inferential question would be, let's see, so we're just gonna kind of like highlight this in pink and kind of go through it. Why was discrimination, why were some states passing laws that deny Black people the right to vote? So those are some questions that we could ask based on what we're just reading. So we're gonna go on to another section. We're gonna talk about business and success. That is on page 14. So I'm just gonna read some of this section. Again, like I said, guys, this is more like an extension, just going over those literal and inferential questions. And always remember, key words that we can remember is that literal is always gonna use those what, when, where did it happen, things like that. The inferentials are always we have to investigate a little bit more in the text. So it's going to use those whys and those hows, okay? So just think about it in that sense, all right? So I'm gonna read business success. Morgan, and this is on page 14. Remember that while we are reading, I want you guys to just highlight with your yellow marker. It's going to be for literal, and your pink marker is going to be those inferential questions. So I'm just going to read this section a little bit and then just go through some of the different sections, and we're going to be looking for those literal and inferential questions. All right, so business success. Morgan eventually settled in the city of Cleveland. He had nothing but a dime in his pocket and determination, says his granddaughter, Sandra Morgan. He took a job sweeping floors at a factory. It made clothes, curtains, toys, and other items. He taught himself how to repair the factory sewing machines. Then he invented a way to keep the machines from breaking. His employer was impressed. He promoted Morgan and paid him $150 for the idea, about $5,000 in today's money. By 1910, Morgan was a successful businessman. He had a tailoring shop with dozens of employees. With cash rolling in, he had a time to work on an invention the world desperately needed, a breathing device for firefighters. So if we're looking at those literal and inferential questions, what made Morgan to, what caused Morgan to have that determination? You know, like what caused him to be determined, you know, so we can answer that for our literal. Our why question would be basically Why did Garrett Morgan want to be a successful businessman? So we can kind of like look at that and figure out, okay, let's answer our literal question by asking that what question, and our why question will be that inferential questioning. So now we're going to go into his deadly fires. Just going to read a little bit of that, and we're still going to be looking into those literal and inferential questions. Does anyone have any questions for me so far? Yes. Okay, yes. You have a good understanding of knowing that when we're looking at literal, we're asking that what, when, and where questions. Good job. And then also figuring out those context clues that will help us to figure out if it's a literal or inferential question, and analyzing the text by using those context clues. All right, so now we're going to go into our section. Good job. So now we're going to go into our section of deadly fires, and we're just going to kind of be practicing the same skills we've been practicing on just using those context clues, using our yellow highlighter for those literal questions, highlighting that, and then using our pink highlighter for our inferential. All right, so here we go. Deadly fires. I am on top of page 14. And you guys are doing a really good job following along with me. Thank you. All right, so in the early 20th century, fires were a deadly menace. Millions of people worked in crowded factories and lived in cramped apartment buildings. A single spark could ignite a raging fire. Firefighters who tried to rescue people from burning buildings could suffocate from the smoke and fumes. Morgan wanted to prevent that and help firefighters save more lives. In 1912, he debuted his safety hood. So what could be a literal question we could ask? We could say, what made Morgan create the safety hood, right? So now we're going to still keep reading to kind of figuring out those literal. So go ahead and highlight that section with your yellow marker for that literal question. Asking those literal questions. So we're going to keep reading this and figuring out what made Morgan want to create the safety hood. In 1912, he debuted his safety hood. It was an ingenious device that had the potential to change the way America fought fires. The safety hood fit over a firefighter's head and shoulders. 2 breathing tubes stretched from the hood to the floor. During a fire, smoke rises. The tubes allow firefighters to breathe air closest to the ground, which had less smoke. Water-soaked sponges filtered out fumes. So a question we could ask for that section would be, basically, how were firefighters able to breathe using the safety hood? So that could be a question that we could ask for our inferential. All right, so we can go into the last section, which is on page 16. And once we go through that, then we will move on to our activity. And I will give you directions on how to complete that. All right, so we are on Morgan's legacy. A year later, Morgan found another use for his invention. It was 1917. U.S. troops were sent overseas to fight in World War I against Germany, which used poison gas as a weapon. A version of Morgan's hood, the gas mask, helped protect American troops from the poison gas. Morgan didn't stop there. He continued dreaming up new ways to solve problems. One way, in Cleveland, he saw a terrible car crash caused by chaotic traffic. Morgan was again determined to help. He created a new kind of traffic signal. It briefly stopped vehicles in all directions at busy intersections. Then the signal changed to go. The pause reduced the risk of accidents. So a question that we could ask is basically, when was the traffic light created? All right. A why question. why, give me 1 second, guys, because I'm trying to figure out this section, and then we will go ahead and figure out our inferential question. All right, so a question that we can ask for our inferential was, give me 1 second, I'm still trying to look through the text, trying to figure this out, because this is a learning process. We're trying to all figure this out together. So our question would be, why were many vehicles having many accidents at the busy intersection? So that's one of our our inferential question that we can kind of ask to figure out, like, we need more evidence from the text on why was this happening? What was causing these vehicles to have accidents? And we know this because it states it on page 16. So now we are going to, now that we kind of went through the different sections, we highlighted with our yellow markers on those literal questions, on that one, what, when, where. And then those are key words that let us know that those are literal questions. Our inferential, which requires a little bit of more information and investigating, those are our whys and their hows. So now we are going to move on to our card sort. All right, so now I'm going to explain how our card sort activity will work. I have prepared for you a set of cards with different facts, details about Garrett Morgan. Some information on the cards is literal, which means it's directly stated in the text. Other pieces of information are inferential, meaning we need to think a little deeper about what is implied or what we can figure out based on the facts provided. For example, a literal statement would be, Garrett Morgan was born in 1877 in Paris, Kentucky. That would be a literal question. This is a clear fact, right? It's something that you can find directly in the text. So now we are going to go right into, and then another example of right into our activity. But before we do that, I'm also going to explain to you the inferential part of it. All right, so Garrett Morgan invention of the gas mask saved countless lives during World War I. This is something we can infer based on the text while it may not say it directly. We can figure out that the invention must have had a big impact during the war. One category for the that will be for literal information facts is straight from the text, and the other will be inferential information, things that we can figure out from what we have read. As we go through this activity, think about the information, why it fits into each category. Does anyone have any questions for me so far? Yes. So those key words are helping you understand what literal and inferential questions are. Good job. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead into this card sort activity. I'm gonna go around and give each and every one of you a card sort card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys about a minute to kind of read the question, read the statement that goes along with the question, and then you are going to figure out whether that is a literal question or is that a inferential question. So I'm going to give you guys about a minute to kind of do this, and then we're going to discuss as a whole class. And I'll just go around and just ask, like, can you read me your or I can read the statement, and then you're going to tell me is that literal or inferential. All right, so we're going to go ahead and kind of give everyone some time to read this and answer the card sort activity, figuring out if this is a literal or inferential question. So I'm going to give all of you some time. And if you have any questions, I'm right here to support you guys as well. All right, I'm going to just kind of walk around just to make sure everyone is doing a great job. You guys are all doing a great job following those SOAR expectations. Remember, we are being safe, optimistic, accountable, and respectful. So just walking around, making sure that you are all understanding what we're doing with this card sort activity. All right, so here we go. All right, can you go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud, and you're going to tell me if this is a literal or inferential question. All right, so his question, it says, when did Garrett Morgan invent the gas mask? He invented the gas mask in 1912, and give me 1 second. He invented the gas mask in 1912, and I'll come back to you because for some reason I don't think your card sort is it's laid out properly. So we'll come back, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next student. It says, what was another important invention by Garrett Morgan? And then basically we know this, that another invention of his was the 3-position traffic signal. So we know that he created the gas mask for many firefighters during the war. That saved many lives. But also, we also know that he created the 3-position traffic signal, which was really helpful. So is this a literal question or inferential question? Yes, so this is, good job. So this is a literal question. All right, so now I'm going to go on to you, good job. So who was Garrett Morgan? And then it says Garrett Morgan was an African-American inventor and an entrepreneur. Now, is this a literal question or is this a inferential question? So remember, literal questions is asking those what, when, where did it happen? And those inferential questions are asking those whys and those hows. So would this be a literal question, you think, or would this be an inferential question? Okay, he says he doesn't know. So we're going to figure out as a whole group class on whether and how can we figure out, if we go back to our image that we had, it can help us determine whether this is a literal or inferential question. So remember, literal questions will give you the what, where, when, and why. And it could even have the who's in there, right? Our inferentials are going to be the how and why. So would this be a literal question or inferential question? This would actually be a literal question because we know that who it's a key word to help us determine that this is a literal question because it's right from the text, right? If we needed to do a little bit more investigating, then that would be an inferential. Good job. But see, we are all learning here, and this is just to kind of give you guys a little bit more information on this card SOAR activity. And you guys are doing a really good job following those SOAR expectations and, having fun with this activity as well. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next student. And this one says, how do Garrett Morgan inventions continue to influence our lives today? And it says, modern safety equipment, including firefighting and military gas masks, evolved from his design. So remember, we are looking for that key word, and that key word says how. So if we're saying how, would that be a literal question or inferential? Good job. That would be an inferential question. All right, so now we're going to just move right along with this. You guys did a really good job with your with this card sort activity. I'm impressed with how everyone's following those SOAR expectations and how you guys are being very attentive and asking those, like with our literal and inferential questions, asking those what's, those where, those when questions, and for inferential, those hows and those whys. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move right along. So the next thing we are going to do, we read through the article. Okay, so today we've learned about Garrett Morgan's incredible contributions to history. By sorting literal and inferential information, we were able to understand both the factual details of his life and the bigger impact of his work. Morgan's invention helped improve safety in major ways, and that his story teaches us the value of innovation and thinking critically about the world around us. Before we finish, I want you to think about something. How might our world be different today if Garrett Morgan did not create the gas mask or traffic light? Yes, good job. So if he didn't have that, then firefighters wouldn't be able to have the equipment necessary to be protected, right? And good job. Then we would also be experiencing a lot of accidents because he created that traffic light signal, right? All right. So and then another thing is that I want you guys to think about is like if he hadn't created the gas mask or traffic light, it might have an impact in our society today, right? So what are other inventions we rely on today that you think that inspire other people like him? So just think about some inventions that other people have created that also impacts our society. Yes. Do you know of any inventions that anyone else has created, like Garrett Morgan? No? Okay. Oh, well, how about lights and electricity and stuff? Yeah, because if we don't have electricity, then we wouldn't be able to do some of the stuff that, because having electricity, I feel, is something that we need in our society. Good job. All right, so yeah, electricity is something that someone else created that was able to give us all power so that we were, like turning on the lights, and being able to have that is very important and essential in our lives today. All right. So So some things that we can look at, in the early 1900s, Garrett Morgan was an inventor determined to solve everyday problems. One of his most famous inventions was the safety hood on the version of the gas mask. In 1916, when the tunnel explosion in Cleveland trapped workers underground, toxic smoke filled the air. Morgan and his brother bravely used the safety hood to rescue several men, providing its effectiveness. His invention later became the basis for gas masks used for firefighters and soldiers. So what are some literal questions that we can think about? What was Morgan's most famous invention? And what year did the tunnel explosion occur? And we can get all of this information just from reading that small paragraph. And then how did Morgan prove the effectiveness of his safety hood? And what other major invention did Morgan create to improve road safety? So we can get all this information just from reading that. And this is all for literal questions. Then if we look at inferential, Garrett Morgan was a brilliant inventor who dedicated his life to improving public safety. In 1912, he developed the safety hood, an early gas mask and designed to protect people from harmful fumes. Few believed that its usefulness until a disaster struck in 1916. A tunnel explosion in Cleveland released toxic gases, trapping workers underground. While many hesitated to help Morgan and his brother Rush in wearing the safety hood, saving several lives. His invention later became essential for firefighters and soldiers. So we're thinking about those inferential questions, right, guys? So why did people initially doubt the usefulness of Morgan's safety hood? What might have happened if Morgan had not used his invention during the tunnel explosion? How did Morgan's invention contribute to public safety? And why do you think Morgan faced difficulties in receiving credit for his work? So we're going to, as we go through and read this, we're going to think about that, right? All right, so this is a picture, right? Look at the picture. You guys are all doing a really good job staying focused. What do you, so literal questions, and it looks like it's like different people, different players. Looks like they're playing baseball. So like, what do you see? What color are the uniforms will be your literal questions. Your inferential will be what type of game did they play? And how do they feel? Do they, their feelings could be, do they feel happy? Are they excited? So you can think about that by asking those literal and inferential questions. Okay, so all right. So you guys all did a really good job in using investigative work to figuring out literal and inferential questions. The last thing I need you to do is you guys are all going to be doing a quiz, answering 6 questions that goes over poison into the poison cloud about the life of Garrett Morgan, and answering those literal and inferential questions. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to kind of answer all of this, and then we will be done for today. At the end, I'm going to go around and I'm going to give each and every one of you, because you guys all did a really good job, I'm going to give you 2 SOAR tickets. 1 for being safe and optimistic, and 2 for being accountable and respectful. All right, so I'm going to collect your card SOAR activity as well. So just take some time, do this quiz, and I will go around and pass out your SOAR tickets. Also, I want to remind all of you that you guys all did a really good job today, and thank you for allowing me to teach you these skills of figuring out what is a literal question and inferential question. I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes. If you, I'm gonna kind of walk around if you need any support, and I'm gonna start passing out the SOAR tickets. Okay, good job. I'm giving each and every one of you 2 SOAR tickets because you guys all did a great job. You guys were listening, following all those SOAR expectations, and thank you for allowing me to work with you today. All right, again, my name is Mrs. Rauch, and I will see everyone on Monday. Bye.